Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Annex, the podcast hosted by Chester, Ian, Josh, and Peter. This is episode 7, Wrestling with Ministry. We are here joined by Maui 3000.
Maui 3000.
Beauty,
Let
out the sheesh. Beauty, let out the sheesh.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, Kevin Quan, Pastor Kevin Quan.
Pastor Kevin.
We are honored to have you. You are one of the best youth pastors ever.
Yeah.
Also a father now of one wonderful daughter.
Daddy. Oh yeah.
Thank you for joining us today, Kevin.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's go.
It's an honor.
Let's get it.
Go.
All right. Well, today's topic is wrestling with ministry. Kevin, you preached a few weeks ago in English service, and you briefly mentioned the season in your life where you were wrestling with the call to become a pastor. And I think we just want to know more about that, what it's really like deeply wrestling with ministry, full-time ministry, and then, yeah, just everything about that. Because, I mean, all four of us are in that season as well of our lives. And we would love to hear from the Maui 3000.
Oh, Maui 3000.
The member of the Backseat Boys.
Backseat. We should do another. Well, maybe I'll share like a summarized view, and if you guys want to go deeper into a certain aspect, that could be cool too. Because I don't know how long you want me to go in the first answer. But growing up, I had no idea what I wanted to do. As a kid, I think I wanted to be an astronaut. Then I realized it'd be really smart to do that.
Out of this world.
And what world?
Out of this world.
Out of this world.
Whatever.
Actually, in high school, I wanted to be a police officer because
really?
I think I realized it was too nice. I can't like give someone a ticket. I'm like, oh, just don't do it next time. I'd be too nice as a police officer. But I think our local police station had like a ride along, like for seniors in high school. So they had that program. Wow, really? And then my mom was, I think, like really like concerned that I wanted to do that. But going to college, that's when I was undeclared, so I had no idea what I wanted to do. So all freshman year I was undeclared, and then the first fall semester of your sophomore year, you had to declare a major. Otherwise, like, you had to choose something. And I remember thinking, wow, this is such a big decision because this defines the rest of my life. Like, how can I make that decision in just a matter of weeks? Like, that's so difficult. But then I got advice like, oh, you can change your major. People do that all the time. But I still had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was looking on the website, like the list of majors, and I also saw things like business. My mom scheduled a meeting with me in the business chair, and I thought, I don't know if I can get into business. It sounds like a general like major that's very versatile, so maybe that could work. So my friends thought I might like physical therapy, like Josh right here. But then I realized to go into physical therapy, you have to like understand biology and like all those terms. Like, oh, I don't want to memorize all those terms. Like, that doesn't sound fun. I just want to like be active.
To be honest, I also don't really know a lot of terms also.
Oh,
in biology.
Patella.
Except for this
This
one.
is the tie, right?
Yeah.
According to Moses.
No.
Sorry, Moses. Exposed. But then I saw a major called youth ministry, and I thought, wait, what's that? And I clicked on it, and I read the description, and it just really connected with my heart in a very deep way, because it said things like, do you want to invest in the upcoming generation? Do you, what's the word? Find a lot of life just spending time with young people and investing in them. And I realized at the same time, without me knowing, I was already doing that. Like when I go back home, I was still going to FCBC Fountain Valley at that time. I would serve in their Bible drill, youth Bible drill. That was really fun. I would serve in their VBS. And I just found myself gravitating to talking with the high schoolers. Even though like I was still in college, I still had my college friends, but I just really cared how they were doing, and because they were in my youth Bible drill. And I realized there was a natural connection that I really cared about, like how they're doing in life. And so I thought, wait, could that be a really realistic option? But I think my mind instantly shut that down. I was like, wait, that's too far-fetched. Like, I had to do something more respectable, like makes more money. My high school friends will respect me, or my family will think well of me. So like, there's no way youth ministry will work out. Or why would it be an option? Why would God choose me to be a pastor? I didn't grow up my whole life wanting to be a pastor. I think this is when I shared like on a couple weeks ago, but so basically I said, okay, no youth ministry. I'm gonna go into exercise science. So I scheduled an appointment with I think a department chair of exercise science, It's on a Friday afternoon, and I show up, and when I get there, the door's locked, the lights are off, and no one's there.
Oh,
I'm like, dude, like,
they ghosted you?
yeah, they ghosted
You know
me.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Like, I would imagine you would have some responsibility, exercise department, but they didn't. And I was like actually angry in that
They were
moment.
working out.
Like,
They're exercising.
24 hours at the Long's gym.
The Long's gym.
So I thought, you know what? I'm like upset right now. I'm gonna walk up to the youth ministry department. It was another building. If someone's there, I'm just gonna talk to them. So I went up there, walked upstairs. The lights were on. Someone was home. And I said, "Can I talk to someone? I'm kind of wrestling with this." And they basically looked at my transcript and they said, "Oh, there's a couple of units you can spare. Why don't you just take a couple classes and see if you like it? If not, you can always change, like go in a different direction." I thought, okay, it can't hurt to take a couple classes. If I don't like it, then that's a really clear answer. So I think one of my first classes was like Christian ministry or something like that. And it was terrifying because I realized like I actually really enjoyed like those classes, being with like-minded people who want to go into ministry, youth ministry specifically. And I was terrified and thrilled at the same time because it was exciting that I was getting closer to having some clarity, but also terrified because I loved it so much. But yeah, so I think there are so many stories of I think me having anxiety or fear and backing out like God, this is too crazy, and Him affirming me in some way. And yeah, and then there's a story I shared on the sermon a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you want me to revisit that or
Go for it.
go for it. Okay.
You want?
So there was one night, basically, I was like in my apartment. It was late at night. One of those like middle of the night kind of like freak out moments where it's like, there's no way I can go into ministry. Like I'm not gonna make any money. My high school friends are gonna think I'm crazy. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this. Like those two fears, money and respect, what people thought about me. Oh, it's Stanley. Oh yeah. Oh. Hey, he's up next.
Slight
Israel.
cameo. Yeah.
Else
Some
Stanley,
hand
no.
lever watching this. This is where you will.
Yeah, you're gonna be on here soon, Hanley.
Wait your turn. Wait your turn.
Wow.
Ouch. He's just excited.
I don't
He really wants to be here.
Inside the annex. And then the very next morning, I had these fears coming into ministry class, and my friend, who's also Filipino, we're the only two Asians in the class. He raises his hand and asks the professor before class starts, "Hey, like my fiance, like we're having some struggles. Christian colleges, they kind of like get married pretty quickly. So Chester, just a warning if you go to Vanguard.
Ring by spring.
Ring by spring.
Oh, no.
Senior year.
Ring by spring.
So expect a story.
Yeah, spread them wings, man.
Um,
Spread them wings.
It was basically saying like my fiance's parents, they have trouble like trusting that I can provide for like their daughter. I don't know if they respect my profession or if I can make enough money. And he asked the professor like what do I do? And the professor shared a story that I think was one of those powerful affirmations of God encouraging me to continue in this path. And she basically said, like, I used to work in the insurance company or industry, and she'd make so much money that she could buy a car and pay it off in a month. I'm like, whoa, that's like a lot of money. Like, I want to be where you were. And she said some sort of company retreat or something. And it was a beautiful sunset, food, everything anyone could ever want. And she realized she wasn't happy. It wasn't fulfilling for her. And she said it was in that moment she decided to go into youth ministry, specifically camp ministry, like youth camps. And she doesn't have like a regret in the world looking back. And she wouldn't change it for the world. So I walk out of class thinking, I just had these two fears the night before about money and the fear of man, like what people think about me. And the very next day, this interaction, I didn't even tell my friend about it. But he brings up the two exact fears and it's addressed. And I just felt God was like encouraging me, almost like putting his hand on my shoulder and just like asking me to like, it's okay. Like I'll be with you. If I'm calling you into ministry, I'll equip you to do the task. And so that was like one story of just how I just really felt God, when I had the fears and the questions, God always addressed it in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, so I think that was one of many stories. So that was in college. I don't know if I should stop here or if I should just because after college I started coming to FCBC Walnuts.
Mhm.
Met
Yeah.
some of you
I know
guys.
that church.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
Are we
that
at
church.
church right now.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Yeah.
maybe.
Annex.
Back when the bungalows were still
Yeah.
a
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys like the bungalows?
I did like the
Yeah, we like the bungalows.
Oh.
yeah.
Love that.
I wasn't
Really?
here for that.
Oh.
I hear about it all the time.
It would have been inside the bungalows.
Inside
Low key, yeah.
Inside the
low-key,
bungalows.
Yeah, we just had a slight upgrade with the Hope Center.
Yeah.
So
Just-
yeah.
Just a slide.
just a slight upgrade. But yeah, basically my 4th year, I'm kind of skipping a lot, so we can go back and revisit certain
Yeah.
things. But my 4th year of college, you get to get like a field work or field experience at a local church, and I thought, hey, like I went to FCBC Fountain Valley growing up. There's a FCBC Walnut like 15 minutes away. Maybe I could just check it out. And so my 3rd year of college, I began to attend Turf. I met John Cito back then, the college pastor.
Yeah.
The Gabe Lee of the time. And I got to know him. And then Eugene. So John and Eugene were basically like my mentors or supervisors during the 4th year. So that's when I started serving in Gap, God's Anointed People.
Yes.
You still remember?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin, you were. I think Peter can say.
I
the same.
remember.
I think you were one of my first.
Yeah. You were my.
Yeah.
You and your Gene were, like, it was your first
That's
year
crazy
there.
because we were just talking about this in the car.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was part of Kevin's first group.
Yeah.
Not a
Wow,
great introduction to
that's
FCBC.
crazy.
Yeah, I think
Dude, yeah, that's crazy.
We got in
Yeah.
trouble weekly.
because my first full year it was you guys. The
Yeah.
year before I came in like halfway through the year, so I didn't really.
Kevin, you were
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
first youth counselor.
Yeah.
Alongside,
yeah,
alongside
I remember
Nathan.
that. Yeah, that was
I remember Kevin's outfit the day I saw him. The first day I saw him in
with
Gap.
the red
Do you
trunk.
remember his outfit?
Yeah, I remember his outfit.
What was it?
Okay, it was a classic Kevin outfit at the time.
Oh,
It was so good. It was so he had so Kevin he liked to surf, right? So he
Yeah.
had like these type of surfer shorts. It was like
Board
it was like a magenta type color.
I
with,
should have
like-
worn that today.
Yeah, with some kind of like orange trim on it. And after
Yeah.
that,
It's a lot of colors.
on his
Dude,
feet,
your memory,
he
what the
was
heck?
wearing he was
I
wearing
know,
he was
that
wearing
memory is crazy.
he was wearing sandals. I thought they're Quicksilver, but it's probably not Quicksilver sandals. But I'm pretty sure
don't
it was
think so.
Quicksilver. And
Mm.
after that, he was wearing his this one olive green shirt that
Oh,
I think
yeah.
you still have.
Yeah, I might have lost
you
it
know
actually.
his outfit.
You
better.
lost it? Oh man.
I saw the shorts though. I'll
Kinda
wear them.
crazy.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
And that was that. And then you may have wore a hat that day. I
Mm.
forgot, but you definitely wore a hat
Justin's
other
funny.
times.
Yeah, what
And then
was
you,
his
and
hairstyle?
then you have like this one backpack. It was like a camel
Red
bag.
or something?
It was like a
yeah,
camel
I had a red
backpack.
camel
It
back.
had the water spout coming out from the
Yeah.
from the
Wow.
So I'll
side.
send you a picture. This is like
Yeah.
exactly to the detail.
Wait,
Like,
yeah,
we need
yeah.
proof. We need proof.
Wow.
yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, I was 6th grade at the time, and I just remember seeing guys like, man, everyone here is wearing like dark colors, light colors, and then there's Kevin. He's wearing like a mix of colors everywhere, man. It's like, oh, interesting. Like, who is this
Dang.
guy? You know? And
The
then,
fashion sense.
Yeah.
I didn't go in.
man.
I just needed my Riz to be up, so I just.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay, we're making
okay,
it count.
okay,
It's
okay,
a youth
okay,
pastor
okay,
right
okay.
here.
We're counting it. We're counting it.
Just a prelude to this.
Yeah,
If you
no.
don't know who Kevin is, Kevin, as a youth pastor, picks up a lot of, let's call it like
Youth
modern,
slang.
yeah, like
Youth
youth
slang.
slang.
Yes,
Yeah,
youth
yeah.
slang.
And he implements it a little too much, in my opinion. So yeah, so starting right here, I don't know if it's even on the camera, but we'll start a little
Little counter.
slang counter,
Yeah,
I
no,
guess.
we're for sure gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My-
All right, he's at 2 because
Yeah,
he
yeah.
started the. What did he start
The
with?
sheesh, the
Yeah,
sheesh.
he started with
He had
sheesh.
the sheesh at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he had Riz just.
Let's see. That's how we're gonna do
It's
this.
okay. I'm
My iOS is always updating each year. You know, the more slang I get.
getting the software.
You know, Urban
update.
Dictionary is my best friend. You know.
It's okay, it's
Urban
okay.
Dictionary.
Oh,
whoa.
Urban Dictionary.
But
It's actually crazy though.
Call it the cringe count.
Cringe
but I
count.
do think Riz is pretty like it makes sense. It's from charisma.
Charisma,
I'm
right,
like,
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
actually has logic to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
about
Why'd
the
they
other.
take the middle part though?
Exact.
It could have been Ma.
It
No,
does sound the best, I'll say
Riz
that.
sounds the best.
It could have been Carrie.
The Grizzly
Yeah.
Bears. Grizzly
count.
Bears.
Cringe count. There
All
we
right.
go. I.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, I remember you were also my grade's 7th grade counselor. That was the year
Yes,
before Ryan
the-
became.
Oh,
our counselor.
Oh, really?
Right. Because I
Yeah.
think the way it worked back then was that the counselors stayed in their certain grade. So I was
Yeah.
always 7th grade
Oh,
for a while,
interesting.
and then over time they would move up with their grade.
Yeah.
So it kind
Wait,
of
what?
changed that
Mm.
way.
Yeah.
So senior year of college, that's when I served in Gap and got to know everybody. So the counselors back then was Uncle Eddie Fung or Ed Fung.
Uncle Eddie.
That's what Sean Ing calls him, Uncle Eddie.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Um, and then Eugene,
Yeah.
Auntie Lynn, Sumi. Yeah, I think your mom was there too.
Yeah.
Ah.
Mum.
She who remains.
She's
So
the
she-
last
She's
member
still
of that
here.
group.
the remnant. Oh, classic. So that got my feet wet into ministry, and that was really, um, just transforming. I think it really solidified a lot. And in between junior and senior of college, I also worked at Mount Herman, which is very powerful. But
Yeah.
I'll go into that later if you guys want me to. And then after I graduated college, I was gonna go. I actually was gonna go to Denver Seminary in Colorado. Like I already signed everything. I was gonna go, but for some reason I just changed my mind. I'm trying to remember why.
Have California burritos.
California.
There are no street tacos in Denver.
There's no
That's
In and
true.
Out.
No, there are no In-N-Out.
They're just
9,000 miles up.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic, is that
Yeah, so that's all they got.
Was
yeah.
he even in the league during that
No.
time?
No.
It was the Kobe Bryant era, dude.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
no
like
way.
Andre Iguodala or something.
Jokic was still in
Oh,
Serbia.
yeah.
Iguodala.
But so I don't remember why I changed to Talbot where I went to seminary. I think I looked at the classrooms and I saw a volleyball court. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I kind of want to stay here. There's probably a better reason, but I remember seeing a sand volleyball court. I'm like, hey, this is kind of nice actually. Denver Seminary didn't have that. But Denver's a really good school. It was just much smaller, and I think. Oh, okay. Here's the real reason. I think I developed so much like friendships already at Walnut. I didn't want to just cut that off and move to Denver.
Yeah.
I figured it just made sense to like continue the relationships that I had like continued here. So that's probably like the legitimate reason. Then 4 years of seminary, and then I was graduated, was hired in 2018, and then yeah, been here ever
remember that.
since.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
So that's skipping a lot, but that's maybe like capstone. I can go into more detail, like if you guys.
Nice.
That's
Follow.
cool.
I'm sure all of us have a few questions.
Oh yeah.
I think for me, it's more specifically towards. So, you explained the part where you were like wrestling with ministry and how God led you towards becoming a pastor. Were you still having doubts even during seminary? And were there thoughts like, oh yeah, maybe this isn't for me?
Yeah. So it's not like that sophomore year when I took those school classes. It wasn't that I made that decision and I was sure from there. It was like both a decision, but it felt like 1,000 baby steps. Like I felt like I was taking one step forward. I'm like, okay, God, you still want me to keep going forward? And he affirms me. Then I take another baby step forward. It was like that over and over again for many, many years, beginning from sophomore year of college. So I think what helps me affirm my calling was the more I got myself involved in ministry, like preaching, counseling, small group. If that was something that where I found joy in, or it felt like this is something I could see doing, and it's not like a burden, like it felt like that was some sort of affirmation that God was giving me joy in ministry and to continue in that. So it was definitely a very like years process, not even like a month or like a year. It over time just had to find that just trust that God was calling me, and that even though I felt I had no qualifications, that God would equip me both in character and in skill to fulfill what he wanted me to do. So the short answer to that, yeah, it was a long process.
Very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because I know, like, I mean, I've talked to you about this before. I thought about going to seminary also. I mean, even still to this day, it's still like a prayer request I have, like, what if God's calling me and stuff. But I think just to hear you talk about your journey and how, like, because I think I'm so used to, especially in this day and age, right, where it's all about, like, consumerism and, like, we want these fast, right? But the way that God works is by his timing. So it's probably not even fast, probably not slow, probably like a little bit in the middle. And I thought, like, for me personally, is like I needed to know now so that I could plan better for the future,
Yeah.
But then I think the more I prayed about it, and I'm still praying about it, but the more I'm learning more, like, from you and even talking to Gabe also, who's my discipler, like, yeah, like, I'm starting to really see that this is like years and years of cultivating and thinking and praying. Like, I probably thought about this for only about like a year, but like for Gabe, it took him like 15 years, you know. And for you, like, I mean, granted, you pretty much made the decision right after college and stuff, but even for you, right, like that was a few years also, right?
Mhm.
And I just felt like for me, like it's just hard for me to think about because I know, like, I like what I'm doing now as trying to pursue physical therapy, and I also, as much as I enjoy it, I know I'm also pretty knowledgeable and that it's something that I'm good at for now, right? But then it's also kind of scary. Like I think for me as a college student, is because I want something solidified now, so that I am just great for the rest of my life, right?
Mm.
But then yeah, but again, like, the more I think about it, the more I hear what people say. It's like no, life is not like that. Like
Yeah.
you are gonna have more and more. I think just um I guess thoughts, doubts, and even events that may happen in your life that may influence you to even think about a different direction in your life. So I guess like for you, right? Because I imagine you prayed about it, right? And
Yeah,
obviously,
allegedly.
yeah,
Allegedly.
allegedly, yeah, um, yeah. But I imagine, because I think for me, I'm looking for something like a specific answer
Oh,
that
right.
a specific answer, like God, like show me something through someone, or I am gonna do something with someone, and that is my
Mm.
calling to go to
Yeah.
seminary or to be like a full-time minister. So did you
Yeah.
have that type of experience
Like a
also?
burning bush moment
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
where it was
exactly.
lit, you know, and
Oh my!
He planned that. He planned that out.
He planned that out.
Another one.
another one.
I love. We're gonna get a replay on Peter's reaction on how quick he will turn around.
Where it was lit, you know, and
Oh my
dang,
We need to
it's,
clip all of it.
it's pretty tamer though right now. Three, like that's not
Three,
bad,
not bad,
you know.
yeah.
I'm ex-
I expected more.
I'm exercising the fruit of self-control, so that's why, you know.
Yeah.
That was also
Um,
kind of pushing it also.
Oh.
I was kind of like, let's go there.
No, I didn't have a clear sign. But there'd be like, actually, okay, I'll share this, but it's not. It's just I'm not saying this is like anything spiritual. It was just like it may have been a coincidence. It may have been like, huh, maybe it's more than that. But I remember I was in the school library, and John C. at the time had given me a book, Am I Called? By I think Dave Harvey or Steve. No, not Steve
Not
Harvey.
Steve. Steve Harvey, Mr. Potato Man himself.
Reformed. Steve
Family
Harvey's
Feud.
reformed.
Dave Harvey, right?
Transformed.
No, Dave Harvey.
It has to be Dave Harvey.
Dave Harvey, not Steve
The
Harvey.
whole book is just a family feud.
Name something. But on the cover, it has like those old school telephones on it, where it's like the ring, ring, like the circle.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I took it out in the library. And I was like, okay, what answers does this book have? And right, the moment where I just like took it out, like not even a cell phone, like an old school telephone, like went off. I'm like, huh? Like where? This is such a coincidence. And I look over to the room next to me, and the library's kind of old, so they had one of those old school telephones, just like the book that I had. And I don't want to share that to say, oh yeah, like this weird telephone went off, and that's how I knew what it was like to be a pastor. But
Yeah.
like that was like one story that I think another story, like I was also rescued with my call. Like I was in the computer lab at school. I thought, oh, what am I doing? Like this is crazy. And then I looked below the computer monitor, and there's like a card, like that business card thing, but for like ministry. And it's all these like weird things when I try to like almost run away. It's almost like something that I see in real life that just kind of like affirms me. Now, at the end of the day, it's not those small things that affirm a person. Like I believe at the end of the day, like if you're called, it's because God is actually calling someone to go into ministry, not because of random events that go off. So I think it's first and foremost a call from God on someone's life to go into ministry. But I think over time, through things like, does a church affirm you? Like as you get involved in ministry, teaching, do like your supervisors or the people in charge, like aunties and uncles, do they affirm that they can see you going into this path? And I think third, I think this is really overlooked. I think character as well. Like going to ministry, I think, does your character match with um the knowledge and skill set? Because it's not just a job where you do a job, you go home, and you can afford to live a completely different lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you go into ministry, when you go home from the office, who you are, your spiritual life, your character, your holiness, your purity, if that is compromised, that just messes everything up in
Mhm.
your ministry. So I feel like that, especially for me, like back then as a college student, I realized just how much I needed my holiness. I need to take seriously my holiness, because if I want to do follow God's plan, do great things for God, then my personal private life needed to be sanctified as well.
Mhm.
So I think that's why it was a process, not like
Yeah,
a
like,
sign from
yeah.
heaven or
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
But yeah, that was a good question. It didn't come instantly.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mm.
How was it being a youth counselor first?
It was really fun. Yeah. Because I think of your grade, you, Greg, Josh Lim, and I think I was just so much more open to trying different ideas, which now I'm like, should I do that?
Yeah.
Like I brought more props up to sermons. Like I
Oh,
think
really?
I was trying to explain why I liked mountain biking, so I brought my bike helmet. But I was like, oh, that's still like unnecessary. Like I don't need to do that. But I remember we had small groups like out.
I remember this
Yeah,
too.
under the
First
stars.
day, for your first day, you
Oh,
put us
really?
under the stars. Yeah, and you made
Yes.
us. You told us to pray in a circle, looking up to the stars.
Yeah.
And you did that again in retreat too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
So-
love that.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
so
remember
I
that.
think it was just it was really cool because I think I was still in college, so I felt like I could still understand some of the lingo a little bit. I was like in the between. I wasn't like an adult that has to like discipline, which I had to learn how to do that,
Yeah.
but I was still like in that in between. So it was really joyful. I think Gap. I'll always have a heart for junior high students.
Mm.
And I think they're just so off the walls. So I think, yeah, those first couple years, it was really, I think, important for me to get that experience to see like what it was like to be a counselor. I think one of my first socials, I think, maybe not with your grade, but I think with your grade, I don't think you could make it. I was watching the SpongeBob movie. Which you couldn't make.
I couldn't make that one. No.
It was like the second SpongeBob movie, and it was so bad. And I realized
Yeah.
midway through the movie theater, like we're just not even interacting with each other. We're just like watching a movie. Like this is so boring.
Yeah.
It was a bad movie too, so that's why I switched to just going on hikes. And I think just being able to develop like real life discipleship relationships, I think that was really like precious to me. Just really rewarding to be able to have that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I realized like that relational ministry is something that that I really value. So I really like that.
Mm. Yeah.
I guess like speaking of stuff you like learned throughout ministry, what are like some key things you learn yeah, about the youth, like how to minister to youth, and even like about how you wrestle with like some of these like youth pastoring issues yourself.
Mm. I think so. Maybe I'll touch upon preaching because remember like I didn't grow up being a public speaker.
Mm.
Like I remember in 7th or 8th grade, like public speeches, I would like burst out laughing because I was like so nervous, and it was funny for the class and for me. Like, but then I was just so bad at it. And even my senior year of college, it was like a preaching class, and this felt so unnatural, to speak in public. But it's just like over time, having good training, good practice, that it's like it is like a skill that you can hone and sharpen. So
Mm.
I think when people think of being a pastor, it is really scary to preach in front of other people. But by God's grace, like with the right training and the practice and opportunity, that was something I learned like early on that it'll come over time, like to find your voice in preaching, not just like imitate your favorite
Yeah.
preachers. Yeah, what else? I think early on I could be that I think relatable older brother figure where
Mm.
you don't always have to discipline. But I also realize like I'm not as effective because they need someone in their life who can be loving enough to like be firm in certain like discipline and boundaries.
Hmm.
And I think I'm growing recently the last couple of years and um that they need that authority structure in their life. Like there is a time to have fun, to be playful, but there's also a time where you have to set boundaries. Otherwise, if I'm not going to do it as a pastor, like, where are they going to get that structure in church, or that the discipline, the enforcing of rules? And it's
Yeah.
to care for them, to build them up. And I think that was not natural to me, so I really had to learn how to do
Dude,
that.
Kevin, I know that wrestling with discipline, because I teach Sunday school for a bunch of third graders.
Oh.
And oh my goodness, I
Tell
also
us.
wrestled with the same thing. It was like, I love these boys. It was usually the boys that were more rowdy, which
Mm.
it's their boys.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I discipline the boys still in love and do it with grace?
Mm.
But then they need to know like what they're doing is sinful or they're wrong, when they're talking during class or just being disrespectful to whoever's speaking. And I was just like, how do I do this? And it
Yeah.
was hard. So I mean, I can't imagine for a pastor to wrestle with a huge group of people who are older.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I
I'll
understand.
share something. Like when I was in junior high and high school at Fountain Valley, like our grade, even until senior year, we were just really distracted.
Mm.
Like on our phones, like messing with people, like, and we thought we were being like really sneaky, but like now that I'm on the other side, it's so obvious to be like, dude, you're not sneaky. I can see your phone. Like you're so loud. And I remember the difference between the uncles who pulled us aside out of anger. Like I could remember like their way, their eyebrows were so angry and slanted, and how much I could sense their anger, and then that made us angry back at them.
Mm.
But then I also remember that our counselors or the uncles who would pull us aside out of love, like they were so firm, like, hey, like, uh, I can I understand? Can you explain like why it's so hard to focus? Like, can help me understand where you're coming from. And I could tell they came from a tone of gentleness and kindness, but they weren't gonna let me slide. And I think that was the balance. Because afterwards, I came away not angry at those counselors, but I felt like, okay, that I probably shouldn't be doing that. They really care about me. Versus the other um, uncles or adults that you could just tell they really despised us, and we despised them. So yeah, there was. So I think that really helped me. So like for now, when I see a kid on the phone or there's being really like disruptive, um I have to pray, because otherwise my natural emotion is like anger or frustration.
Mm.
And I just have to tell myself, like Romans 2, like it's the kindness of the Lord that leads us to repentance, that my anger is not going to lead them to behavior change, but it's experiencing God's love that loves them whether they're behaving or not behaving. And so when I pull a kid aside, I just see it as an opportunity to ask like, hey, how's life going? What else is going on in your life? Like, why is it hard to pay attention? And I really still try to speak truth, but I actually try to like build a bridge. And I'm still not perfect in that, because I still like, yeah, I get triggered, and I still get really it gets on my nerves. And that's definitely something I still need to work on. But I think we're just remembering like kindness, like grace and truth, So that's what helps me remember.
Yeah, I can really see how that really affects kids, because my grade was also one of those kids also that like
Oh
I mean I'm pretty sure Pete also say the same thing about his kid too.
Yeah.
But like I won't name any names, but they know who they are. If they
Come on,
watch
say
this.
'em.
Yeah, they know.
Say the names.
Daniel Ding.
Daniel Ding.
I said Daniel.
Who's Daniel? Who's
Daniel Ding.
I wonder who that is.
But even then, right? I mean, just like you, Kevin, I think it was like I remember like it was like the big three. It was like you, Nathan Wu, and Ryan Enoch. Like that was
Ooh.
the big three of our time when we
Big
were in
three.
youth. And even though you weren't my counselor for the whole time, but Ryan Enoch, I feel like you two shared the same approach to wanting of how to counsel the kids, because Ryan himself was just exactly the same way that you have described. And yeah, we didn't despise him, but it was more like the more
I hope not.
No, I mean
You just went to his wedding.
Just yesterday, man. Just
All its
yesterday.
pent up anger.
but it was one of those things was like over time, like we as youth, like we started to realize like the how much effort you guys put into investing in our lives, and that is something that we to this day do not want to take for granted. and I could I say like every time we come back together, it's just funny. Like we would go down memory lane sometimes and talk about how
Memory
bad we
lane.
were, and then but it always came back to, man. But we all admit that if God did not put Kevin or Ryan in our lives, we would not be the men we are today.
Mhm.
And that's because that they tried to exemplify God in the best way possible. And even though it took years, through our teenage years, for us to get that, but the reward is always there, that that God continues to work in our lives and our hearts, and He used men like you guys to help set that for us. So so like we're always grateful, and again, I'm pretty sure if we weren't grateful, we wouldn't have been at the wedding. So so just to experience that, right? Um, yeah, but I think like even like yeah, but since going off that topic now, right? I guess like as you were going through, like even like with your own small group, right? The kids that you grew up with,
Mm.
like can you explain your thoughts and I guess what you went through internally, having to counsel kids who repeatedly fell away and who may have at
Mm.
times seemed unrepentant, because I feel like because even like for us now, like we are leaders in some shape or form, and we are discipling people, right? And I think some I think for us we get those feelings of, oh, like why aren't they getting it? Oh, like we're
Yeah.
doing, like we're putting so much effort, like we're at night, like we're thinking about this, we're wrestling with this, we're praying for them, but it's not changing. It's like, so can you like just walk us through like how you thought of that, and
Mm.
I guess how God sustained you, because sometimes it drives us to like insanity, it's like why,
Mm.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. I think there are certain students where you can just tell there's like zero interest. They don't even want to be at church. Their parents are the reason why they're here. And then there's some students who are like, they're at church, they have friends here, but they're just not interested in the moment. I think the students who you can just tell they're totally turned off. Um have they don't want anything to do with God. That definitely breaks my heart, just in a deeper way. And I remember there's a student who once said, like, I don't even want you to pray for me. Like,
Mm.
I asked if I could pray for the student, and they said, I don't even want you to pray for me. And I think there's just like a heartbreak that comes with that. And definitely, so in the moment there might be tears and just um crying out to God. And I think that it really humbles me. I think there's, in a sense, the answer is there's nothing you can do to change someone's heart.
Yeah.
Like, no matter the best sermon, the best counseling session, the best small group leader, the best book, it can't change someone's heart. Like, so if we know that's true, if only God changes hearts, then um, how much more should we rely on prayer? And so I think that's been something that I've really tried to cling on to, which is still very difficult to pray and
Mm.
cry out to God over and over again. But I
Mm.
think I've also learned that a student who's maybe in high school, like their story's not done yet. Like, 'cause
Mhm.
I've had students where maybe after
Yeah.
high school, they found themselves at a fellowship, or they just have a different perspective, and God really really changed their heart, and it's a miracle to see that. And um, so I think that's how I have to remind myself, just to keep my head up in those moments, like with those students, that right now it looks like the door's completely shut, but God's not done with their story. And
Mhm.
I think that's why we
Yeah.
keep praying and keep reaching out to them, when and just trust that God um, will one day move hearts in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very encouraging. I think that's like part of the reason why like us as leaders, it's so humbling of an experience to like, yeah, I think like yeah, I struggle with that too. Like with what Josh said, it's just like, oh, like it can be discouraging sometimes when you're trying to lead people and then they're not as receptive, or they just don't care as much, right? And then you start thinking that, okay, my I don't know, my worth as a leader is like, how good can I lead these people? How many people can I bring in, right? And it's like, it's a little humbling experience too, just to just remember that, yeah, even though you're a leader, it's like you're still your
I mean, as a leader, you're basically you're basically a servant, right? If you're a leader, you're just called to serve these people, and you're just remembering that it's by God's power that you're able to do that. And it's like, yeah, it's like I think again, there's always that twist for me in my mind, like not even just ministry, just anything in life with like career or like just future. I tend to put things on myself, and then it's like, yeah. So I think that's why like leadership ministry, it can feel like burdensome at times. It can get tiring, but then there's always just that reminder that like you're still just a sinner, right? You're still weak in your own flesh, and you're just remembering that, yeah, you're doing this for God's kingdom, right? And you can't do it without God. So I think there's just that constant reminder of just going back to, yeah, like where do you draw your strength from as you're even as you're yeah, I guess you're seeking the kingdom, you're trying to do the good works, but still you feel this burden and this, yeah, this weariness, right, in your heart.
Mm.
Yeah. I think it's encouraging to hear like from a pastor, I feel like, just because that is like you're in it, in your career, in your life, like even how you sit in your personal life at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because I think in this everyday world, the physical world we live in, when you put in something, you'll get something out of it. Like if you do 10 push-ups a day, you will get stronger over time. Like it's a very like you put this in, you put this out. But I feel like in ministry with dealing with souls and like relying on God, you can put all this work in, but God is the one who causes the growth. It might not happen because of you, but we trust that God uses our efforts to bring about His kingdom and change lives. So it's a very different mindset.
I got one last question for you. What was some of the best advice? So you said, I know you've had many mentors probably, but you said Eugene and
John,
John.
Little John.
What was the
Okay.
okay?
Yay.
This is a cringe counter moment.
Nah, we'll let that one
It
slide.
was like-
That was more-
Grace,
that was more of an
pen back.
impersonation.
Big John.
Yeah, my question is, what was some of the best advice that you got coming into full-time seminary or full-time ministry, or just even during ministry? It could have been last week.
Mm.
Um,
Oh.
What was
best advice?
the best advice, or encouragement?
Mm.
Because I'd like to hear. You did say that the church was affirming you, and that's how a sign that God was leading you towards full-time ministry. I wanted to know how, in what way what was encouraging, what was a good advice for you to keep going.
Yeah. Whoa. I feel like there's a lot could be said about
Mhm.
that question for. going
No
to
cop,
ministry.
no stop.
No cop, no stop. Ooh.
There we go.
That wisdom
go.
there. Drop of wisdom from Peter. From 3rd Peter there. Hmm. Yeah, I think I touched upon like relying on God's grace, which really is the ground floor of everything. I would say, I'll say this, in an Asian church, a large Asian church, for me, I remember there was one Sunday, I was still pretty new to FCBC, I was still going to turf. I had gone a couple times, and I remember I'd parked my car. I had a Celica back then. It was like early 90s. It reminded me of the DeLorean, like Back to the Future. But one of those. But obviously not as cool. But I remember I hesitated to get out of my car when I had parked in the upper tier of the parking lot. And I remember asking God, could this be a place where I can actually truly call home? And I remember asking God, can you just bring me true friends, one true friend at FCBC? Because I was leaving a church that I grew up at, FCBC Fountain Valley. That was like my life, my home, my community. Like everything was just so familiar and just so reassuring. And so I was stepping out into this unknown church where I didn't know anybody, and I just asked God, can you just bring me a true friend? And I can looking back now, like God answered that overwhelmingly. Because I feel like if I just did ministry, but if I was isolated or lonely and people didn't really know me, that would feel that burden would be just so much heavier. So I think maybe tying back to one of the questions you asked, I think one of the joys of ministry, sometimes it wasn't like what I learned in the classroom, though that was important, but also I think serving with other brothers and sisters in Christ. I think my closest friends were the ones that I had served in ministry with. So like Brian Enoch, who just got married yesterday, he was he had come back from UCSD, and I remember like he was trying to find a community because his class, they'd gone separate ways, and I was trying to find community, and we had just really connected. And even though I was commuting from my home in Santa Ana to Walnut every Friday, every Sunday, I remember for a period of many years before I got married, every Friday, there's at least one house I could sleep over at. Like it was mostly Ryan's house, sometimes Nolan's house, sometimes Nathan's house. But I always tried to like connect with other people, like other brothers, and we would stay up late, talk about ministry, the students, our crushes, you guys understand, right?
Sleep over with the boys.
Yeah, with the
Hanging out with
boys.
the boys.
Truth or truth.
Oh,
Truth or
truth.
Just
Yeah.
dudes.
Just dudes, right?
Just guys being dudes, being bros.
Bros. So every Friday I felt like that's how I had felt like I could do life together. And I think that's what it means as Christians. When we give our life to Christ, we also enter a community of people who love Jesus, but also love one another. And we want to follow Jesus together. And we end sharing our joys, our sins. We pray with one another. And I think, because when you go into ministry, people will put you up like on a pedestal. They'll begin to treat you as if like you're different, but you're just a human at the end of the day. And so I think having those friendships, especially in a culture where there's honor and shame, it's hard to be real with the struggles internally, but you can find those brothers, that core group of friends that can really walk with you. I think that's really turned my experience in ministry like night and day difference. So yeah, my mom always had a corny quote that's better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies, like 4 good friends than 100 shallow friends. I was like, oh wow, that's a really deep. Like wow, and I can just remember that till this day. So
you say you have like about like 4 real friends at FCBC?
Yeah, 4 quarters or like a dollar coin, A dollar coin. A dollar coin.
Man, we're just side characters, guys.
Dang.
We're NPCs, we're side quests, right?
That main character energy, right? Yeah. So I think that's advice. I mean, there's so much more, but then
Yes,
off the top of my head, that's what comes to mind.
Awesome.
Kevin, it's been a joy. It's been an honor to have you on this episode. We'll probably have you on again later on.
Are we gonna ask them the same
Yes.
question we asked?
I-
Okay.
I forgot to do this with PT. I realized.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
It was too serious. It's okay.
It was.
Okay.
It was a very heavy topic.
Heavy
That's
topic.
true. That's true. Yeah.
But
okay.
Kevin, describe each of the Annex members
The
in 3
Oh,
words.
in 3 words.
Oh, I forgot about this.
Dang.
So we,
Hmm.
I'm gonna just let you go.
I totally forgot that
3
we had
words.
this.
Peter, I'll start with you.
Okay.
Dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
Speedo.
He said Speedo.
That's how you know he wants your girl. That's how you know.
He knows.
And a Jolly.
Jolly, that's a great one.
Jolly good show.
Jolly
good show.
Jolly Roger. Yeah, Jolly. Josh, I'll say let's see, Russell from Up.
Oh my god. No.
Oh yeah, Russell from Up. Oh yeah.
All 3
Russell from That's it. That's all you get. Russell from Up. That's all you get. Dang.
Oh my god.
Let's see. Yeah, I can't think too much.
It's okay, just whatever comes
Okay.
to your head.
I'm sorry, Ian. K-pop star.
Whoa!
Wait
Black
a
Pink,
minute.
you know.
I didn't want to be the one to say it. So.
You gotta play BTS Dynamite, you know. That's just looking at my. I know your brothers. You know,
That's my brother. Yeah, that's my brother. That's not me. You got the wrong.
Somehow,
You got the wrong
merged
brother.
together, you know.
You got the wrong wing.
Yeah, sorry, Chester. I just got your boy Mitch.
Boy,
Mitch.
Only people who
Jr.
went to Roland High School know that means.
Oh,
I
it's the
don't know what
principal.
that
Hey, I'm
That's-
honored.
He's honored.
I'm honored.
The 3 R's.
Definitely a lot different from what Endora said.
Yeah,
Well, which we expected that it was going to be a lot
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, my mind is very interesting.
That's why you're a youth pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do want to say it's been, I think, amazing to see you guys from junior high, high school. I mean, it's not, what is that, 6, 7, 8 years ago or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a ton of time, but then I think so much happens in those youth, junior high, high school
Mhm.
years. So I think it's really, and Ian coming like right before COVID hit. So
Yeah.
all you guys just serving and trying to make an impact for God's kingdom. I think that's the best way to live. I think there's no other way to live than that. So
Mm.
yeah, keep even this is a form of ministry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
God's truth on display. So
Mhm.
yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank
All right,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'll close this in prayer.
Hey.
Yeah.
Father, thank you for, man, your grace is so kind, so large, Lord, and it's unexplainable. God, we are so happy to have Kevin here on this podcast. We are very grateful, not only on this podcast, to have Kevin in our lives, Lord. For someone to look up to. He's such a great person and role model that you have put, Lord. God, we thank you for what he has done for you, in his ministry and youth, Lord. God, I pray that we would continue to worship you and continue to serve you, Lord, like as he did. That we would imitate each other, serving Christ, Lord. It is a great honor and a great joy to do so. I pray for this episode as we continue to do this podcast, not for our own glory, but for your glory, Lord. I pray that this podcast would touch those who are wrestling with ministry, God. Those who are maybe in ministry right now that may have doubts about where they are, have false assurances, Lord, that they would find peace and joy in the gospel. Your son, Jesus. So we thank you and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.